Good afternoon, friends. Thank you. Welcome to the King Urban Life Center and Church. Welcome to Just Food, Just Communities program. It's wonderful to have all of you here. We're gathered here inspired, I think, both by divinity in the space and by our shared humanity. So this is a great start to the evening. My name is Samina Raja. I'm a faculty member at the University at Buffalo, and I'm here to shepherd the program along and to tell you that we're all in for a wonderful treat today. We're gathered here, I think all of us are motivated by the topic of the day, just food, just communities. So thank you, first of all, for being here for this important topic. We're also motivated, I think, by the presence of an incredible leader and visionary who I hope will inspire all of us to take action before the program closes. I know I was inspired by her. I won't go into detail about her because she will be formally introduced later in the program. But one of the things that I wanted to begin by saying is that Buffalo is an incredible place because we are also privileged in the people that we already have in our community who are doing incredible work across the city. So tonight is not just an inspiration of a great leader in the country, but also an inspiration from our own community in the city of Buffalo. The topic for the day is Just Food, Just Communities. The title is intentional. We all, I think, care about equity and fairness, but justice requires us to go a bit further to think about what it means to have justice when we think about the very essential thing that makes life happen, which is food. In less sacred settings, I tend to joke a lot, but today the jokes are escaping me. But this one I think holds here too. I don't think any of us would be around, literally, or even be able to think about things that are sacred to us, each of us, without food. So thank you for paying attention to food. Thank you for showing up for a conversation about justice. So let me tell you what's in store for us today. We'll start off with a conversation that will be led by our local Buffalo heroes that are working to repair our food system. The short conversation is intended to introduce us to the work that is already happening in Buffalo. Following that, we will hear from our guest of honor for tonight, Shirley Sherrod, who is visiting us from the southern part of the United States. I will not introduce her, but I will introduce a couple other people who are somehow strategically hiding right now. Anjali Paul and Shubhashni Raj are going to work with me tonight to keep the program going. Shubhashni is a doctoral student at UB, also works on food issues and is interested in climate justice. And Anjali Hall, Anjali, raise your hand. Anjali is a master's student in the Department of Urban and Regional Planning, and she will be actually introducing our keynote speaker tonight. Really everything that you are going to experience is happening because the two of them did all the work behind. So first of all, let's thank the two of them. We wouldn't be gathered here without the support of a lot of friends and partners, both locally but also nationally. Most immediately, thank you to King Life Center and Church for letting us be here. Is anybody from the center here? Thank you very much. We have an incredible number of community partners, many of whom will be speaking tonight, but some stay behind the scenes. So I will just name them quickly. We have the Massachusetts Avenue Project that has provided a lot of support in the background. Grassroots Gardens of Buffalo, also represented here. We have Councilmember Rivera's office that has provided a lot of support. as well as UB's Office of Civic Engagement and Public Policy Initiatives. I hope I got the name right. And then my lab crew, a bunch of students that really work behind the scenes doing a lot of work on food. So UB Food Lab crew, thank you very much. So without further ado, let me announce and tell you a bit about our local food heroes. We have with us tonight 5 individuals who have in their own way been working for many years. The conversation around food justice is not a new one in Buffalo, but it has taken many turns and it has grown over the last decade. To tell you a little bit about that work that is happening, we have with us, and as I introduce the individuals, would you please come to the stage and join us? We have, I need my reading glasses for this. Great. We have with us Rita Hubbard-Robinson, who is the CEO of NeuWater Associates. Rita is committed to improving health and social determinants of health for people in the city of Buffalo for over 30 years. She is the founder and former coordinator of the ECMC Farmers Market and Grider, a project that focused on making fresh fruits and vegetables as well as wellness activities more available to some of our most at-risk communities. Rita is an active leader in the Healthy Corner Store initiative with the Northeast Mobile Safety Net team, which focuses on turning corner candy stores into healthy commercial outlets for affordable use. Can you name the candy? Joining Rita is Melissa Fratello. Melissa is the Executive Director at Grassroots Gardens of Buffalo, a position she has held since January 2014. After working with Senator Kirsten Gillibrand's Western New York office, for whom she served as the regional director, Melissa was actually even then raring to take on an active role in the local community. She believes that revitalization happens at the neighborhood level, block by block, and really community garden by community garden. She views them as a tool for vehicle transformation, engagement, and empowerment. She also serves on the board of directors for Buffalo Audubon Society and a bunch of other things. And you better listen to her because she is a black belt in Fratello. This is not on her bag, because I had routines for years. Joining the two of them is Bridget O'Brien-Wood. Bridget is the food service director of the Buffalo Public Schools. She has been with the Buffalo Board of Education since 1992. She often works behind the scenes. Lots of us get to know our other education leaders. She is responsible for making sure the kids in the school district get fed. I know many of us have lots of opinions about the food in the school. Bridget is working to change the landscape on food. She has a bachelor's degree in human nutrition and food science, and has a degree in restaurant management from Colorado State University. And Bridget has been working on local food issues since 2003 or 4. I don't actually even remember. It's wonderful to have you here. Joining all 3 of these women is Derek Nichols, who is the program manager at Grassroots Gardens. Derek is a lead organizer of the People's Food Movement. It's not sufficient to have the public sector represented here or the not-for-profit sector. It's important in the city of Buffalo for residents' voices to be heard, and Derek is very committed to that. He is passionate about food and about staying active, and I have to brag, Derek is a graduate of our urban planning program where he focused on food systems in active cities, as is Melissa. Derek is also the co-chair of the Buffalo School Garden Committee and also shepherds Western New York Environmental Alliance Growing Group, which focuses on food systems in the Western New York region. Welcome, Derek. Last but not the least is Rebecca Williams. Rebecca has over 12 years of experience working in the non-for-profit sector in Buffalo. As the Youth Education Director at Massachusetts Avenue Project, Rebecca is responsible for hiring and supervising approximately 50 Buffalo teenagers each year. How many of you had a teenager? That is incredible for many reasons, but especially for engaging youth and empowering them to be actors. Rebecca is wonderful. She develops lessons plans and curriculums on social justice and environmental justice. She also works on organizing changes in our system and in our policy environment. She's also a board member of the Western New York Environmental Alliance and is a co-facilitator of the Youth Advisors Council, a city-wide collaboration of Buffalo school students, administrators, health leaders, and the district's food service director. Rebecca and a lot of you in this room make sure that this conversation doesn't stay in the older generation, but actually continues, which is why I'm really grateful to have you. So with that, I'm going to hand it over, in fact, to Rebecca and Derek to give us an update on where the people's movement is.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So, again, my name is Derek. I am the growing group chair of the Western New York Environmental Alliance. And the Environmental Alliance is a collection of about 100 plus organizations and individuals that are all working to advocate for issues and crises that are focused on the environment and urban planning. But I just am part of the growing group and focus on urban and rural agriculture, food access, healthy food initiatives. And that's how Rebecca and I met Rebecca and I have been working together for the past couple of years. Alright, so in June, you might recognize me and I recognize some of you. We had the People's Food Movement. We held that. It was a great event. And the purpose of that event was to really inform the Buffalo and Erie County Food Policy Council based on some of the movements that are already going on in the region. There's a One Region Forward initiative, so they put together a plan called Growing Together, and there's a bunch of goals and recommendations that they provided for the regions. There's also, years prior to that, the Healthy Kids, Healthy Communities Coalition, put together a lot of data briefs on the food system of Buffalo and Erie County. And then we had our own individual data. We had some about community gardens and Grassroots Gardens. And the YAC, the Youth Advisors Council, put together a salad bar survey. So using all of those numbers and all of those resources, we invited the community to come and give us some feedback.
My name is Rebecca Williams, and I am actually the former chair of the Environmental Alliance. Derek is now the representative on the Alliance board. Just to piggyback on what Derek has said, first of all, I just want to thank the organizers of this event, Just Food, Just Communities tonight, particularly because we were very excited to be able to work with them and bring this panel together to build on the conversations that we started at the People's Food Movement back in June. As Derek said, the People's Food Movement came out of the Western New York Environmental Alliance Growing Working Group, which is a group of groups committed to food, agriculture, and gardens. My organization, Massachusetts Avenue Project, I represent MAP on the Growing Working Group. And of course, Derek represents Grassroots Gardens. We also had somebody from the Food Bank of Western New York there, as well as the Environmental Justice Action Group. And what we really wanted to do was inform our leaders in terms of food and food policy. So a couple years ago, May 2013, there was a Food Policy Council for Buffalo and Erie County that was formed underneath the Erie County Department of Health. And we wanted to make sure that that Food Policy Council was really listening to the voices of people who struggle the most regarding food access issues. And since our organizations work in the community and with people who have those kinds of issues, we thought that we could reach out to those people and invite them to come and weigh in on some of these suggestions that have been put forth in terms of the One Region Forward Plan and all of these other plans and documents that have been created for our region. We wanted to hear from people who it impacted the most. So that was our purpose for putting the People's Food Movement together.
Yeah, so if you walked in, you saw those brown sheets of paper in the hallway. Those are kind of the activities that we had at the event. So we had the goal up there and then data around it that would inform that goal. And then we collected the stories from the community of maybe the trouble getting access to a vehicle to get food, or the struggles that they face day to day with healthy food access. And then at the end of the event, we gave everybody 3 dots, and they put dots on the top three choices, top 3 priorities they wanted the food policy council to tackle. And so on those sheets of paper, we had a wide range of goals stemming from healthy food access to environmental, the organic practices of farmers, to land access. And the top 5 that people chose were, the first one was to develop a healthy corner store initiative. Second one was long-term leases for community gardens. Third one is to make sure all farmers markets have EBT. Fourth one is to have a database on all vacant urban parcels that can be used to be growing food. And the last one was to increase the use of mobile food trucks to deliver produce to neighborhoods and schools. So I'm happy to say that the Alliance has now taken up that Healthy Corner Store initiative, and we're going to push that forward, continue pushing that forward to the Food Policy Council, and really force them to listen to you guys again just on the Healthy Corner Stores initiative, what you want to see in them, and give you feedback and thoughts on those stores. Also, we want to add in a text-in campaign. So if you're out at a corner store and you see some really delicious fruit and you want to take a picture and text it in, we can map that. Or if you see some really terrible conditions at a corner store, we can text that in as well. So that's kind of where we want to take that.
I just want to restate before we pass it on, just again, we're very thankful for the Just Food, Just Communities organizers to allow us to add to this wonderful event already with Mrs. Shirley. We're really excited to hear your keynote tonight. But we particularly reached out to members of the community who are working on those top 2 issues, as well as Bridget O'Brien-Wood, who is leading a farm-to-school initiative for the Buffalo Public Schools, which she will talk about. So again, we're just really grateful to the organizers of tonight, and we're excited to hear about the work going on in the community on this.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I am Rita Hubbard-Robinson, and I'm here to talk a little bit about some of the work. Some of the work that I've been doing probably over the last 8 years. We started a few years back at ECMC talking about the health of the community, because if you don't know, ECMC is in the 14215 zip code area. The 14215 zip code area has some of the sickest people in the state of New York. So the thought was, what could we do as a hospital to reach out to the community? And what we tried was, and still have in place, is a farmer's market. Of course, a farmer's market is a short-term market that is seasonal in the city of Buffalo. You can only do it so much in that amount of time to have an impact, or long-term impact, on health. We learned that there was another group working called the Mobile Safety Net, funded by the Oshai Foundation, and did a needs analysis across the Northeast area, probably across several of the counties in the region, but specifically looking at the Northeast section of the city of Buffalo, and got involved with them. In the needs assessment, it was found that there were a few top issues that needed to be addressed, one being access to food. Another thing about the 14215 zip code area is that it is a food desert, meaning there's no access to food in walking distance, fresh fruits and vegetables or produce, and walking distance for most of the residents who live in that zip code area. Might there be a correlation between access to healthy food and poor health conditions that are chronic, like heart disease, like asthma, like diabetes, like hypertension or high blood pressure, like heart condition. These are some of the top health conditions that are prevalent in the 14215 zip code area. Also, the 14212, 11, 04, and 06 zip code areas of the urban center all have some of the sickest people in the entire county living in those areas, most of which have poor access to food. So the Mobile Safety Net and a team of about 17 organizations have been sitting around the table, and we've been very committed, many of them are in the audience today, to coming up with a solution. I was happy to bring a project that I'd seen in Kentucky called the Healthy Corner Store Initiative. And so we brought it to the table, we talked a little bit about it today, and everyone got behind it. We've worked for about a year and a half, and out of this we have growers at the table, we have community-based organizations at the table. All together, we are focusing on the 14215 zip code area. We've identified 2 stores and 2 store owners who are willing to pilot a healthy corner store initiative in the city of Buffalo in the zip code 14215. We are very, very excited. We're also in partnership with the County of Erie to provide refrigeration. We are working with Urban Farmers Project. We're going to provide affordable food so that the food can be accessed and also afforded. Nobody wants to pay $1 for 1 orange, right? So we know that this is an important component. Okay, I could just use my outside voice. I could just use my outside voice with the mic too. Can you hear me back there?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Great.
So one of the things that we thought was a very important component was affordability, right? So people in the community, would be able to use, if they had food stamps or SNAP benefits, use them in a way that would be healthier for their family. We also know that many communities depend, particularly in the winter months, on those corner stores, and having potatoes that are loaded with salt and in a bag is not going to keep their family healthy. So we have identified, as I said, 2 stores, one on Amherst Street, one on Lisbon, that we're hoping to have a grand opening in January. In fact, we just had a very robust meeting before this meeting talking about our grand opening. And we're going to be having a series of community events. One of the things that I learned at the parking lot across the street from ECMC was it's not just bringing the food, it's also creating the palette. Yes. So the idea of if you build it, they will come, is just really not true when it comes to food. People have to enjoy their food. So food demonstrations, other community engagement and activities will be taking place over the next few weeks in preparation for a grand opening for the 2 stores in January. So that's really the sum and substance of it all, but we hope that after doing some learning over the next few months, we'll be opening up more stores in all of those zip code areas. Thank you.
Everyone hear me? Yes, okay. My name is Melissa Fratello. I'm the Executive Director at Grassroots Gardens of Buffalo. I'm very excited to be here tonight and so excited to hear Mrs. Sherrod shortly. I will try and wrap up what Grassroots Gardens does in just a couple of minutes and then talk to you a little bit about the challenges that we face around land tenure. So we are an organization that was established back in 1992 by a West Side businessman named Milton Zeckhauser. We were established initially not necessarily to address food access issues, but to address the abundance of blighted vacant lots throughout the city of Buffalo, primarily on the east side and west side. And we operated very much as a grassroots organization for the first 13, 14 years of our existence, volunteer-led, with a stable network of about 15 to 20 gardens. We hired our first executive director in 2010, and from that point up until now, we have grown from a network of 20 some odd gardens to a network of 94 gardens, most of which produce food. So we're experiencing exponential growth, and I don't think that this growth is due to a trend in community gardening. I think it's to address issues in our communities and to find solutions to food access issues, community empowerment. We have evolved over the last couple of years. Initially we existed to facilitate access to land. We didn't have a lot of programming or wraparound services around that access. We established a master lease with the city of Buffalo back in the 90s and had a very healthy relationship with City Hall. And at the time, our land wasn't as desirable as it is becoming today. So we were comfortable with that lease situation for many years and operated fairly smoothly. We provide liability insurance for all of those lots, and we provide basic materials to start the gardens. And our gardens range everything from ornamental to high levels of food production. And our model is community driven, meaning that we do not go out and select lots and tell the community that they should garden on them. They come to us and say, we want that lot to become a garden, and we make sure that there's sustainability in place and facilitate that for them. So our lease with the city of Buffalo has been a temporary arrangement that's been in place since the 90s, but has not been renewed since 2009. So it is currently a 30-day, month-to-month lease that provides only 30-day protection to our gardens, which we are aware is problematic, and have been in negotiations with the city of Buffalo more heavily over recent months and over the last year to address. And what we have proposed with the city is a 5-year agreement that would protect our lots throughout the growing season from March until November. Initially, we had hoped to have a performance-based lease where food-producing lots would have higher protections. Through negotiations, have simplified that agreement to have the same protection for all gardens. We don't see that as enough, so we are preparing to purchase some of our lots as well. There will be some challenges around the land ownership piece. Number one, because we can't buy all 94 of our gardens. And we've set some clear criteria to select the gardens that we will purchase. But we're a little bit behind the ball in moving forward with this process because the development of the city of Buffalo is moving so rapidly, and we do have several gardens that are at risk, city-owned and privately owned. So we're moving forward to address that. We're very hopeful that we will have a long-term lease in place with the city, hopefully by the first of the year. But interestingly enough, what's holding us back from that agreement is the fact that we are growing food in our gardens, and there are concerns over liability around safe food production. So we've moved forward with a number of measures. We have every garden sign a food safety agreement. All of our gardens grow their food in raised beds with soil and mulch and compost sourced through GGB, organic source. And hopefully that will be enough to appease the law department and allow us to move forward. Am I missing anything, Derek? I just wanted to take a moment. I know we have several community gardeners in the office or in the audience from Grassroots Gardens, can you raise your hands if you're a community gardener with Grassroots Gardens?
Please stand.
Because I just want to give you all, we're up here speaking, but you're all the ones doing the amazing work. We're inspired by everything that you do, and we're working to give you the security and the stability you deserve in your gardens. Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing that I'd like to mention is that, Samina did state earlier that I have my black belt in Taekwondo. I owe that to her, by the way. She's the one that stuck with me, just so you know.
I'm Bridget O'Brien-Hood, and I'm the food service director with the Buffalo City Schools. And this past year, through the collaboration with Cornell Cooperative Extension, Massachusetts Avenue Project, and the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus, we were awarded a USDA Farmer School Planning Grant. And we have been able to put together, with the $45,000, a pilot program with 10 pilot schools. And I have to say that, I worked with Samina years ago at Montessori with Michelle Stieglitz, and we've been trying since then to change the landscape of school lunch, but it really does take a community and a lot of collaboration. And I could not be up here saying anything to you about Farm to School if I didn't have that collaboration and then the support that we've gained through working together and all of us having our resources to go to. So Rebecca has been wonderful getting the youth engaged, because I have the same problem as Rita, that if you put it out, they won't eat it. And if you can get them to try it, and you can get them to support it and encourage their peers to try it, then it's much more successful. So that's a great component, and that's really one of the biggest components of making this successful. And Cornell Cooperative Extension and 4-H and Say Yes to Fruits and Vegetables have helped us develop relationships with farmers and curriculum that is being used in the schools to help with the nutrition education component. Again, if the children don't understand or know where it comes from, it's meaningless. So we've really enjoyed that relationship with Cornell Cooperative Extension. And the meal that is here tonight is a taste of school lunch. The kale is from Union Valley Growers, and the potatoes are from the Finger Lakes. I spared you Brussels sprouts. Just wasn't sure how that would go. But we've had mixed reviews. We have a harvest of the month, so we had 3 months. September is kale, October was Brussels sprouts, and November is potatoes. And I know people were very critical about how we selected them, but those items were never on our menu that were grown and provided fresh. We have had potatoes that came frozen, and so these are definitely fresh produce items that we are working with chefs to create recipes, and we train our staff, and so we're trying really hard to make sure that we're doing justice to the menu and then trying to get the students to really be engaged with it. And so we're having voting on Thursdays, and we are putting together with DeVal College surveys to see how the items went and how the excitement has changed from the beginning of the program to towards the end of the program, and also to really see if the nutrition education worked, if the teachers were really using the curriculum, getting feedback from the food service staff, how easy was it to produce these recipes, and then of course, getting the student buy-in, or the Brussels sprouts slaw was not very popular, but so we'll just go back to the drawing board. But so we're really encouraged that in 2 years we will apply for the implementation grant, and we will get it. I also have an office in the 14215 zip code right down the street, and we're renovating our commissary to provide scratch cooking for the schools. We looked at this lot of land. I don't know if it's like a half acre, but we're going to be producing tons of food in the community, and we hope that we'll get community support. And truly, we went to, the USDA is really putting a lot of support in the Farm to School initiative, and that's also helping us. We went to a meeting in Colorado and really gained a lot of knowledge and have a lot lot of support from across the country in school lunch. We went to Minneapolis and saw their commissary. I brought an architect with me through the grant so that we could definitely see, how it works, and what they're doing in Minneapolis is very similar to us in their growing season, in their population, and in their environment. So I'm so excited because in 2 years we're hoping that we'll have a vibrant garden and scratch cooking in our school. Thank you.
We have an extra applause for the good food that Buffalo Public Schools. We do have time for a couple of questions, but I want to offer a couple of observations listening to all of this, the benefit of gray hair. I did meet Bridget almost 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, as I did Massachusetts Project and a bunch of people. And they're absolutely right. It takes a lot of individuals and organizations to make change. The other message is that sometimes change happens slowly. But that's okay. We might do things slightly slowly in Buffalo, but we do them right. So I find it incredibly inspiring that you stuck with us and all of you are here and continuing to work. It's a tremendous really tremendous effort in the city, so thank you very much. Does anybody have questions for our panelists? And then we will start to the next section of our program. I can try and bring the mic over. We'll see if it's working.
That's fine. I think my voice is loud enough.
Go for it.
My question is for Melissa. Hi. How you doing? So, Melissa, in regards to trying to work out something with the city of Buffalo, have you all given any thought to some of the gardens that the lots, the gardens that you have in the communities that they are, the neighborhoods that they are, to see whether there's any interest in the neighborhood to purchase?
You mean for the neighborhood to purchase the gardens themselves?
Yes.
Some of our community gardeners have moved forward and purchased the lots that they garden on. And there are actually a few in the works currently. That's actually something that we could organize a conversation around that. And one thing that we do encourage all of our gardens to do is to fundraise for themselves. We provide materials, but we always encourage the gardens to supplement what we provide. And some of them have been very successful in doing so and organizing. I will take that back. We will discuss that. Because I don't believe that the only answer is for us to purchase the gardens. We can continue to steward the gardens, even if they're owned by the Yeah. Thank you.
One of the things we don't yet have in the city of Buffalo, I don't think, is a community held land trust, although I know there is a land trust in our region. But there are models of land being held by community, so that's a great idea. I saw another hand, something like that.
You said the Amherst and Lisbon corner stores are going to be healthy corner stores. So it's like, is that like a test run? What would that look like?
Yes, one store is on Amherst Street, one store is on Lisbon. The store in Lisbon is a small store, really more of a traditional candy store. And the other is a larger store, so the models will look different, which is kind of purposeful. We want to see a variety of ways in which this can look. The one store currently has some fruits and vegetables, but our efforts will help to make it a little more robust And what we're going to be doing as a coalition is to do the community engagement around fruits and vegetables to draw people in the store purposefully for the produce. In the smaller store, we're looking at a number of other options besides just fresh and on the, whether it be grapes or bananas in a bunch. We're also looking at making fruit cups and other quick ways that maybe students can grab and eat fresh fruits and vegetables. So it may be a salad, it may be a fruit cup, it may be some other options as well. So we're looking at, the way it comes off the vine, and also some things that are actually created that will make it easy, fresh to eat. There will be refrigeration available in stores that the county is going to be providing, and I think they get up to 2 or 3 years to determine whether it's successful, and they can keep it in a lease type arrangement, but not keep it as an ownership, because of course this is taxpayers' money that's providing the refrigeration. Does that answer your question? Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, is it going to be like affordable?
Yes, the food is. The question was, is the food going to be affordable? Yes, we've taken some real specific concern around affordability and access, and we have local farmers and urban farmers who will be the source of the food. In other words, we're not really going to the traditional sources where by the time you get into the store, the price has been marked up so much. So the local farmer is able to provide the food at a more reasonable rate, so the markup is a little bit better, the store owner is able to make some money, and the savings all goes to the individual who's purchasing, making us competitive with the local stores in the area. So yes, affordability is one of the key items. It's an access and then affordability.
There's a question here and then.
You had mentioned about the palate, which is very, very important to once you decide to purchase, even if it is cheap. So have you put in place how I, the consumer, is going? I see the fruit, I see the salad, but an example of tasting it. You understand?
I do.
So that's the question. Have you put that in?
So we are working with Cornell Cooperative Extension, Eat Smart New York, as well as Food for All. They're going to be providing some food demonstrations both at the stores and also in the community at community settings. So whether it be at the local church or at the block club, but those foods will be foods in which you can get at the corner store. So, because we know everybody's not going to come to the store to make those decisions, they're going to be made in other areas. And they say, oh, you mean I can get this kale over at the store? Oh, okay, great. And it's how much did you say it's going to cost me? So, making it competitive with, I don't want to say, what supermarket, but, the locals, there's only 2 or 3 of them around. So, the local markets, we will be competing with them for one price.
Time for questions. That direction. I'm afraid this may not reach you.
Well, I can't talk loud.
All right.
My question to anyone on the panel, in planning for it, have you considered, along with, as we usher in this new focus and in relationship with food, teaching people how to preserve food? And the other part of the question is, are any of you working with, since McKinley is horticulture, working with maybe doing work-related assignments for students in the neighborhoods where they reside as a way to helping to raise them up?
Yeah, sure. The first part of your question, this is much louder. Use my indoor voice. So the first part of your question, this Saturday we're having a canning workshop at West Side Community Services, which is at 161 Vermont Street. It'll be at 10 a.m.?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So it's canning 101, so if you don't know how to can, it's the basic stuff. So come, you'll get to make your own salsa and can it there. I need an RSVP though, because space is kind of limited. So if you're interested, just find me and I'll give you my card when I come down there, or if anybody else is interested. And then I think...
Just before coming up on the panel, I just had a couple minutes to talk to Ms. Gill and Ms. Della right in the front row, and they were talking a little bit about some projects they have going in the community, which I'm looking forward to hearing more about. But I was just out of curiosity, would love to see if anybody else is aware of any canning and preservation, other classes or things like that, or efforts like that going on in the community. Just two.
I know some that are not free of charge.
Okay.
And there are some that are.
We know the Lexington Food Co-op also does theirs. That's a charge, right? Well, so it's a need.
Ours is free.
One of the things that we've done at the Farmers Market at Grider Street is a number of different demonstrations over the summer. We always have a demonstration. And so toward the autumn months, we always do something around preservation, whether it be freezing or canning, making pickles, those kinds of things we do over the summer months. But again, that is seasonal, and so it's limited. And so hopefully this is going to be at the beginning with our corner store market, an opportunity, fresh, healthy corner store market campaign, an opportunity to sort of bring these things back. My grandmother did all this stuff. We made everything, from shucking corn to canning and making jams. So this, for me, is part of my own personal story, and it is for many of us. And we've lost it, I think, generationally, little by little, and we need to get back to it.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking all the panelists for sharing the great success. They are going to stick around, and we will try to keep the closing remarks short so that you have a chance to individually connect with all of them. Rita ended on a great note talking about what is being lost in generations. I am going to talk about what is coming up in the next generation. So as someone who was privileged to have some amazing teachers, I couldn't think of anything better than to have a good teacher, until I came across some students that made me rethink that. So now I think about the incredible privilege of having some amazing students. I'm going to invite one of them to join me, Anjali. Anjali Hall, as I said at the beginning of the program, is a graduate student in the Department of Planning at UB, and I requested her to introduce Ms. Shirley Sherrod, which she will do in a minute. But before I let her go, I want to embarrass her because that's what mothers and teachers do. Her mom, I think, is also here, so I want to identify. Great, we can join the embarrassment. Can you hear me? What I was saying is that it's a privilege to have great students, and that it was my students who taught me that it's not just a privilege to have good teachers, it's actually a great privilege to have good students. Several months ago, a student showed up in my lab, and I gave her a bunch of projects, and I asked her, which one is it that you want to work on? And the student had an opportunity to work on a global project which might involve travel. How many of us love to travel? And she was very determined and singular in her answer. Without much hesitation, she said that I will work on a project that focuses on racial and social justice in the United States in Doherty County. And that student is Anjali Hall. Anjali has been doing research on racial and social justice issues in Doherty County in Albany, Georgia, as part of a national project called Growing Food Connections. and I'm delighted that she is going to introduce Shirley Sherrod.
Hello. In the process of organizing this event, I was repeatedly asked the same two questions. Why is it so important to have this event on the east side of Buffalo? And what does food and food justice have to do with racial justice? I was grateful for these questions, because these questions were exactly the reason why we wanted to bring Mrs. Sherrod to Buffalo. I hope the conversations we have today and the insights offered by Mrs. Sherrod will help us understand linkages between racial, economic, and food justices. Mrs. Sherrod has been at the forefront of movements for accountability, equity, and justice in the food system, for people, places, and issues that are often forgotten. Mrs. Sherrod's accomplishments are a testament to her devotion and commitment to pushing for reform, both as a civil rights leader and as a food justice advocate. No words can do justice to capture Mrs. Sherrod's amazing life and work, so I will just share some key highlights of her career that will serve as a source of inspiration for all of us. Mrs. Sherrod began organizing around desegregation struggles in Georgia with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC, while in college at Albany State University. As SNCC and the civil rights movement began to fracture, Mrs. Sherrod continued this important work by co-founding, along with her husband Charles Sherrod, the Southwest Georgia Project for Community Education in 1971. The organization still continues to empower Black families in the region to advocate for social justice today. Mrs. Sherrod has also devoted her life to reversing generations of Black land loss in the rural South. In 1969, Mrs. Sherrod, along with her husband and several others, started New Communities Incorporated, a collective farm of nearly 6,000 acres owned and operated by Black farmers. New Communities was the largest tract of land owned by African Americans at the time and became a catalyst and a model for the community land trust movement in the United States. The project encountered fierce opposition from local white farmers and state officials who blocked key funding sources for the project. Struggling under the weight of an ongoing drought and the denial of emergency loans by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, New Communities lost its land to foreclosure in 1985. With a heart for justice, Mrs. Sherrod continued working through other organizations in the rural South to help Black farmers keep their land. New hope for New Communities arose in 1997 when the group joined a historic class action lawsuit filed by Black farmers against the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The farmers claimed that they had been systematically denied emergency loans for over 2 decades, solely on the basis of race. The case was ruled in favor of the farmers in 1999, and 10 years later in 2009, Mrs. Sherrod and New Communities were notified that they would receive a staggering $13 million of the $1 billion settlement, the largest civil rights settlement in history. Despite the many challenges Mrs. Sherrod and others faced, they never gave up on their visions of Black land ownership, sustainable farming, and racial healing. In 2011, New Communities used the settlement money to purchase Cypress Pond Plantation, the largest former slave plantation in Georgia. The land is now home to Resora, a site for farming activities and a center for racial education. The development of an African-American grassroots organization owning a former slave plantation represents a remarkable victory and success. Mrs. Sherrod currently serves as the Executive Director of the Southwest Georgia Project. In recent years, under the leadership of Mrs. Sherrod, the Southwest Georgia Project has worked extremely hard to connect African-American small and mid-sized farmers with underserved rural and urban communities that lack access to healthy foods, in order to increase the economic viability of the farmers as well as the food security of these communities. Southwest Georgia Project has formed partnerships to establish farmers' school initiatives and farmers markets and is currently developing plans for a food processing plant that will be the heart of the Community Food Network. Mrs. Sherrod earned a bachelor's degree in sociology from Albany State University and a master's degree in community development from Antioch University. She was also recently awarded an honorary doctor of humane letters from Sojourner Douglas College of Baltimore, Maryland. In my mind, Shirley Sherrod is someone whose gracious and persistent hard work we can all learn a lot from. We are truly fortunate and humbled to have her here in Buffalo today, and I hope her talk inspires you to forge new directions and work towards racial, economic, and food justice.
Hello to everyone. As I said to students and others today, when you've been out here working so long, you have to really think what you need to share. Because there's so much. But I want to say to you that I grew up on a farm. I grew up on a farm in Baker County, Georgia, picking cotton and doing the other work that we had to do. We were landowners versus many of them who stayed on plantations. So we knew that working hard meant that, that was our livelihood and we could do many other things. I also grew up in Baker County, and if you ever get the chance, Google it, because it has a history. In fact, people still refer to it as the state of Baker. Because of the sheriffs and that, I won't go into all of that, but you can read about the sheriffs from that county because they ruled during my years the Gator. No one could come through the county without being stopped. And in the 60s, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution estimated his take on the road to be about $150,000. That's money that went into his pocket. And you have big plantation owners there, like Woodruff, who was chair of Coca-Cola, that had a 33,000-acre plantation. The Mellon family out of Pennsylvania, I believe, that a 25,000-acre plantation. Those plantations are still intact. So as I was looking forward to graduating from high school, I had decided I didn't want to have anything ever again to do with agriculture after I got out of high school. In fact, I was applying to colleges in the North because I had no intention of living my life in the South. I was getting out. I was getting away from the farm, and I was getting away from the conditions we had to live in Baker County. But, I say to young people, you can never say what you'll never do. During March of that year, 1965 rather, the year I was graduating, my father was murdered by a white farmer. And even though there were witnesses, the grand jury refused to indict him. On the night of my father's murder, I'm the oldest. At the time, my mother was pregnant. And my father and mother had tried 5 times to have a boy. And every time it was a girl. And we all had boys' nicknames. I was Bill. So he had convinced my mother, my youngest sister was 8 years old, he had convinced her to try one more time for the son. So as my senior year was starting, my mother was sick all the time, and I didn't know what was wrong. And one day at school, my best friend asked me, how is your mom? I said, she doesn't seem to be getting any better. She said, girl, your daddy was at the store yesterday giving out cigars. Your mama's going to have a baby. My father told everyone that this was the son. We were getting a new home, and with 5 girls, he was having one room there just for the boy. But during March of 1965, my mother delivered the baby in June, and it was a boy. But my father was murdered. He died on March 25th, 1965, so he didn't get to see the son. But as the oldest in the family, I felt I needed to do something. I felt that, I had all kind of thoughts about trying to kill the man who killed my father, but I couldn't do that. And I remember as our house filled with people who were coming to try to help us deal with it, I went into one of the bedrooms, since we just moved into the new house one week when my father was killed. And I went into one of the bedrooms and I was just praying to God for an answer. I needed to do something And the thought came to me, you can give up your dreams of living in the North and devote your life, stay in the South and devote your life to working for change. So I made a commitment that night that I would stay and I would work. And that's what I've done these last 50 years plus a few months. We started the civil rights movement in Baker County, and the Gator didn't know what was happening. We ended up getting an injunction, and we made change in that way. But if you're gonna, and with the civil rights movement, it's one thing to fight for the right to vote, it's one thing to fight for the right to do other things, but you've got to do something that's dealing with economic development or you won't make any changes. And that's what we saw. You've got to help people figure out how to be able to live and exist where they are. So that meant working in the rural areas of Southwest Georgia. I'm from an area, Albany has a 40% poverty rate. And Albany is the largest city in Southwest Georgia. There are some other counties and cities in Southwest Georgia where the child poverty rate is 65.2%, Clay County, Georgia, for example. So what do you do? How do you help these people that you're so much a part of figure out how to deal with the issues that they have to deal with on a daily basis? And many of them have either own land or have access to land. You know, that whole idea during the civil rights movement of trying to create a place for them. See, people would they would come to the mass meetings, and because they lived on some white man's farm and he learned that they attended a meeting or were trying to get involved, they'd have to move. They come to the meeting and now we have to figure out somewhere for them to go and try to help this family, the husband, get a job to help to support the family. So that's how we came up with the idea of building a community, and actually sent 8 people to Israel to study the kibbutz during the summer of 1968 in anticipation of starting new communities. And new communities became the first community land trust in the country, and it was the work that we did early on. Our farmers can grow. What has happened with a lot of farmers in the region, small farmers, they've tried to do through the years what the larger farmers do. That's growing cotton, peanuts, corn, wheat. Well, if you know anything about farming, it takes big equipment to do this, and expensive equipment. Those cotton pickers run somewhere around $300,000 up. You know, so a small farmer can't do this. So our farmers have struggled to try to get in this market, to try to make the land help support the family, doing things they really should not have been doing. And we looked at getting them involved in growing produce. Gosh, and I wish I could remember the name of the documentary that Oxfam America did based on our organizing, because there was discrimination everywhere, y'all. I mean, even on a state farmers market, it's an auction market, and black farmers couldn't get justice there. The buyers would pay very little for their produce. So I started looking at farmers. Here's a farmer growing 20 acres of collard greens, and he's growing them for a white guy who comes in and harvests them and pays him $1 a box. That box has anywhere from 6 to 12 bunches of collards in it. Can you imagine that? Now he's growing them and should have been getting that money for it. So, but he can't get in the market because the people who are purchasing won't sell to them. won't buy from them. So it caused us to look outside of the area to see who we could connect with to actually help us get other markets. And that's how we connected with a group out of Boston called Red Tomato. And our farmers grew watermelons in Boston, Georgia, and shipped them to Boston, Massachusetts, and could still get more money than they could get in Boston, Georgia. So we started looking, we developed cooperatives to actually help grow and ship, make relationships with others and ship to other areas of the country. But there are lots of issues with that now. Transportation, get these tractor trailers. We found one of them. I just happened to be standing around when we had about 6 tractor trailers getting loaded. We didn't have loading docks. It was awful the way we had to load trucks. Had to bend the watermelons on site and then try to get them on those trucks. But I heard this truck driver say he had a problem with his refrigeration on the truck. Well, when that load got delivered, it was a bad load. But they were trying to say it was us. But those watermelons have to be refrigerated when they're being shipped long distances. And so just because I overheard the guy talking about this refrigeration unit, we could file a claim on that. But many times you don't hear that, you don't know that. So helping farmers to access markets that they have been shut out of simply because we made relationships now with others who could help us get into the market, and forming those cooperatives to serve the market. I can tell you one, Ben & Jerry's, the original Ben & Jerry's, they sold the company later on, but at a Farm Aid concert, they said they wanted to do something about black land loss. We were losing land at 2.5 times the rate of white farmers, and that's still happening. We're still losing at a higher rate. The problem was so bad that the US Commission on Civil Rights had predicted that unless something was done about discrimination at USDA, by the year 2000 there'd be virtually no black-owned farmland. We had gone from a high of 15 million acres around 1910 down to about 2.5 million acres. And we made, it's probably less than that now. But Ben of Ben & Jerry's said they wanted to do something about black land loss. And they would be willing to buy a product from our farmers to go into their ice cream. So pecans was it, and it fell in my lap for me to organize that. Ben & Jerry's assigned a special projects person to come and work with me. Ben & Jerry's didn't want pecans in the shell. They needed them shelled, and they needed all that little wood to come out of them, because they didn't need any lawsuits based on somebody biting down on that. So we went around to every processor in the area and said to see if we could get a contract with them for them to process the pecans for our farmers. And every one of them said, tell you what we'll do. We'll buy the pecans from black farmers, and then we'll process them and sell them to Ben & Jerry's, and they can say they have ice cream, they have pecans from black farmers in their ice cream. Well, that was no different from what was happening. Our farmers were only getting, in some cases, 18 cents a pound, $1 at the most. And this was giving them an opportunity to participate in the market. Ben & Jerry's actually paid market price plus 30 cents per pound above market price, because they were trying to do something to help the farmers. In the end, they had to make their major supplier do the processing. And because they were paying a premium price, I convinced the farmers to save half of the premium price toward acquiring their own processing facility. And they did that in 1997. You know, we've continued to work on saving land. We've continued to work on training. And then we started looking at farm to school and community gardens. I'll never forget the first garden we have, and one of the things we did too is we would bring farmers in so that these young people could actually see and talk and ask questions of farmers, and farmers would bring products for them to see. With the school system, we'd bring the product and the farmer, and then there would be a tasting. They'd see it, you know, raw. The school director would have, for example, with butternut squash, and that is something we didn't have a way to process them, but let me just tell you about that, because they wanted butternut squash and they wanted it diced, peeled and diced and bagged in 5-pound bags. So we didn't have a facility to be able to do it, but we had helped to start a commercial kitchen nearby. So, and then Turner Job Corps had all these culinary arts students, and the food bank had a refrigerated truck. So we cut and diced by hand squash, butternut squash from Thursday till Sunday. And then the food bank actually made the delivery so that the kids, they were able to see the butternut squash, you know, in this, the way it's grown. And then they were able to eat an amazing soup from butternut squash that had been prepared. And we did that with other products too. But I wanted to tell you about this first garden. So we are at the Boys Club, and this was a few years back. We were planting broccoli and cabbage. And we brought farmers in to help. And it's amazing how they were getting a chance to interact with these farmers who were happy to be able to talk to these young people about how it's grown and then helping to get it planted. So one young boy, he's about 8 years old, he's standing back, and he said, I don't eat food from the earth, it has nature on it. So we asked him, so where does your food come from? He said, from the grocery store. And then when we started explaining to him where that comes from, he put his hand over his face saying, stop, that's gross. But, you know, we're in a major farming area, and it shows just how much we've been displaced from the land and from food. So we planted many other gardens since then with the school system. And the amazing thing is that once we delivered food to the school system in Albany, other food directors heard about it. They invited us to come to a meeting of food directors, and every food director in the area wanted us to deliver product to them. But we don't have a facility, you know, to be able to prepare this. So we looked at the old state farmers market in Albany, and it wasn't being used. So we went and met with the county administrator and said, you know, we'd like to get this building and turn it into a processing facility. So he said, well, currently the state owns it, but we gave them that land 25 years ago. So we've been trying to get it back from them. And they were encouraging us, you know, oh, this is a great use for it. You know, they contacted the state quickly deeded the land back to the county. We had the architect in designing it so that students would be able to go out and visit a farm, seeing food being grown, come back to the facility, see it being prepared to go to their lunchrooms, and then the next time they would see it, they'd be eating it. You know, it was just perfect, we thought. Well, once we went through all of that trouble, the county, I think the county wanted the building. They've been trying to get it back, and they used us to get it back, and then said there was a stipulation that the state put on it that it had to be open to the public. Whatever happens there had to be open to the public. Well, we said, that's what we've done. We've arranged it so that there'd be tours. We had a meeting room that the community and the farmers could use for training. And because it was in a food desert, we had a retail section there for it. But, you know, I felt used after dealing with that process because they had no intention of letting us have the buildings. I have the architectural drawings now. It would have been a beautiful thing. So there was a big setback for us. We need a facility because the lunchrooms don't want a bunch of collard greens. They want collard greens cut up, washed, bagged, and ready to go in the pot. The same thing with other produce. So big setback sort of had us where we didn't know just what to do. And during the time we were dealing with that, the Winn-Dixie stores were closing in Albany. I think they had 3 sites. So we actually, one person representing the owners came into town, and we talked to him saying, you know, we could really use this. We went to tour the place. It's huge. It's almost 47,000 square feet. More footage than we needed for the food hub, but the other things can happen there. But they thought they could sell it. We didn't have the money to buy that. So again, a major setback for us. But we've continued to work with farmers. We've continued to work with school systems. It's amazing to work with those young people planting gardens at the school. Then they actually plate the food. They cook it, and they can participate in the planting of it, in the harvesting of it, and then they can eat it when it's served in the lunchroom. But we didn't get, so we kept doing all of the things we could do. Training farmers, getting farmers organized in the cooperatives, still trying to help find other markets for them. And lo and behold, this was 2012 when we were when we looked at the Winn-Dixie building. Last October, the owners of the Winn-Dixie building from Milwaukee called and said, we want to gift that building and the property that goes with it to your nonprofit. I was so excited, I started, you know, this is a game changer. And then I was scared. Oh my goodness, where are we going to get the money from to deal with this? You know, it was really, you know, excited and then scared. So we didn't accept it right away. Kept stalling until I could try to figure out, you know, what can we do? Where are we going to find this kind of money? Because the building is in an urban area with a population more than 50,000, then USDA Rural Development technically can't invest anything in the building. So I couldn't look to USDA, you know, so this has got to come from somewhere else. So I do a lot of speaking, and everywhere I went, I was talking about it. We have the opportunity to have this, accept this major gift, but we don't have money. And then the owners brought in a guy from, they said he deals with new market tax credit. All the time we're getting training on food hubs, going to conferences and so forth. And everyone, these other food hub owners are telling us, you don't want to start with a lot of debt. That's what new market tax credits would bring to us. And then they brought this guy in who wanted us to sign a contract with him for $5,000 with $50,000 being due at closing. So we are stalling, and we don't know whether the owners are trying to force this person on us And so we'd have these phone calls every so often, and I'm putting it off. And finally, I just said, you know, we need to go on and accept the building, even though we have to do this on faith. We don't know what's going to happen. So we had a call with them, and we told the new market tax credit guy, sorry, but we can't go that route. He hung up right away. I think he was really mad at us. And then we told the owners we still wanted to go forth with accepting the building. So I told them we could accept it anytime between October 1 and November 1. So they chose October 30 to get all of this process done so they could give us the building. I want you to know they paid all of the closing costs, all of the taxes. It was amazing. Then they sent a young man down. I'm smiling because I'm telling you that they sent a young man down to do the advanced work because they wanted to have a program at the site. They wanted to provide food and you know, just the announcement that they were getting it done. We actually were getting most of the paperwork signed before that day. But that young man told us that, hey, they give away a lot of money. So they were flying in on Thursday night. The program wasn't until Friday afternoon, Friday at noon rather. And we decided, hey, we can't let them just come here and not see some of all of the work we're trying to do. So we called them and said, we want to provide breakfast for you. And we took them out to that plantation for breakfast. And we made a presentation on all of our work, and they were just blown away. So I sent a thank you note, because they flew the corporate jet in, brought 8 people down, you know. I sent a note to the executive vice president who was in the group last week, and he sent me a message last night and said, they want to help with some of our other projects. And this is not the last time you've seen our team, you know. I'm weaving some of this in to let you know that it looks like doors will close. And you can't figure out where to go, how to go, who to go to, but you can't give up. When the plantation was mentioned, we lost everything in 1985, largely due to discrimination by local whites and USDA. It was supposed to be all over for us, but we didn't give up. We lost 6,000 acres of land. You have to know what that does to you, but you can't give up. You know, I channeled my work with helping other farmers make sure they didn't lose land. And lo and behold, the lawsuit, the black farmers lawsuit, the Pickford case came up. And once we agreed on a settlement with Pickford, there were 2 classes, A and B. I won't go into giving you the lesson with that, but anyway, there were 2 classes. I was so busy, you all, going about trying to help farmers know what they needed together for the lawyers and helping them to get that information so that they could file a claim. I almost completely forgot about our loss. Because with the Pickford case, you had to have experienced the discrimination between 1981 and 1996. We were still farming at that time. So I'm driving from Alabama one night where I had been there working with a lot of farmers, and the light bulb went off. Oh my goodness, we were farming in 1981. New communities can file a claim. Now, we lost everything in 85. So this is 1999 when the claims could be filed. You had 6 months from April to October, 1999. We filed a claim, and it took 10 years. 10 years. We didn't hear from our lawyer. Well, things happened during those 10 years. Our hearing was held in 2002, And if you had been in there, you would have left there just like we were happy knowing that we had won the case and the hearing officer ruled against us. We had to appeal, and the person who handled the appeal for the monitor's office found 6 major mistakes that would cause a miscarriage of justice. 2 years after our hearing, the lawyer who represented the Justice Department was arrested in California. Turns out she wasn't a lawyer after all. When the monitor's office found the mistakes, they sent it to the chief adjudicator, where his wife was our hearing officer. Now he was faced with having to reverse his wife's decision. And so it took him from October 2006 until July 8, 2009 to give a decision in our case. So, and so we ended up with the largest payout in Pickford. Now we could look for land again. We didn't give up. So now we have one of their plantations. It's not what we set out to get, but, and they can't figure out, when a reporter heard that the sale would take place, he called our house, and I answered the phone, and he said, I heard you and Charles are buying Cypress Pond Plantation. I said, Charles and I don't have the money to buy any plantation. So he said, is it New Communities? And I said, yes. I said, but I wish you wouldn't print this. We are still trying to make the deal. Well, I knew we had signed the paperwork and had 30 days to close. See, I also knew if there was any way they could stop it, they would, but we had signed the paperwork, and I was having fun at that point. And so we closed within the 30 days. That plantation was once owned by the largest slave owner and the wealthiest man in Georgia, and he held the largest number of slaves at that one. He had about 9 plantations in the state. He died in 1851. He had built the antebellum home that's on site. His son died in 1858. So we have a copy of an ad from December the 29th, 1859, where they were selling 150 slaves from that plantation. It has a long history. We didn't know it when we purchased it. I had a problem with antebellum. Why would we want some antebellum? So the previous owner invented the system for paying for fuel at the pump. And he had lots of money. He spent $3 million restoring the antebellum home. Okay, $3 million. He turned the whole house around. Made the front, the back, and the back, the front. He built cottages and so forth on the property. Prime piece of property. He developed ALS though, and died in 2008. We learned about our award in 2009. And in 2011, when we were actually out looking for land, someone suggested going to look at this place. When he died, they put it on the market for $21 million. When we went to look at it, they had dropped the price to 6.9. And they said, but it gets better than that. It gets better than that. The salesman kept saying, just put an offer on it. The corporation is holding it and they're ready to let it go. Just put an offer. So my husband, who was in the group, said, see if they'll take $5 million. They let us know the next day they would take $5 million. But they were not willing to include the equipment. And we were looking at another plantation too, because this is what was available there in Dougherty County. And so we got a consultant to come in and help us make a decision. And he said, you have to get Cypress Pond Plantation because of all of the improvements. But you can get it for less than $5 million and make them include the equipment. So we got everything for $4.5 million. So you can't give up. You just have to keep working, stay true to what you're trying to do. And you won't know sometimes why it happened, how it happened, but it happens. You know, and if you need to be in place to be able to do it. I know God intended for us to end up there. Because when you look at all that happened to us, they took 6,000 acres from us. Sometimes they would shoot at our buildings and so forth. And God gave us a plantation already intact.
Hallelujah.
And we're trying to do some amazing things there with it. So there's so much I could say to you, but the main thing I want to say is try it. If it doesn't work this time, don't give up. And try to involve some of the farmers in what you're doing. Let those young people meet the farmers. Let them ask them questions. Let them touch them, you know, and you never know what will come out of it. It helps the farmer and it helps them. So thank you.
Wasn't that a remarkable story? So, Anjali and I have spent weeks organizing this, and between the two of us, we've read almost everything published on Mrs. Sherrod. So, we knew about the remarkable story and the remarkable journey, and we were so excited to have her here. Because what an incredible journey the panel shared also. Thank you to everyone who was on the panel, especially for those who said yes as soon as I emailed them without even thinking about it. You know, Buffalo's at this point in its journey where we needed the story of hope. You know, you kept saying, don't give up. And I kept hearing people over here saying, that's right, let's not give up. What this needs is a community. And that's what we have here. There's over 100 people here. So thank all of you for being here today, for listening to the story and carrying on this, going out with hope to carry forward this work. But this is our opportunity to learn a few more things from Mrs. Sherrod and insights from her about how deep some of those experiences and challenges can be, and how do we move on with hope despite those challenges and experiences. So I'm going to open it up to the audience to ask your questions for the next 20 minutes. Do we have any takers? Go on. I know you have an outside voice and you don't need the mic.
Well, the only question I would ask, because I was dealing with a lot of black farms and farmers, as we look at the needs today and the need for there to be a diverse army on this issue, what would you say at this point? Because we know, well, some of us know about how black farm owners and landowners were undermined, but today it really is a diverse effort meeting all of us. So what would you say?
Well, there is more diversity now, but I want to let you know that black farmers are really struggling now. Everyone thinks that because of the black farmers lawsuit, that's the discrimination is in the past, and we've solved that problem, let's move on. It's not solved. Many of them have become almost like sharecroppers again. They can't get loans through the government, and they go to these places where they sell supplies, and they also buy, for example, the peanut crop. So they'll go and the man will furnish the peanut seeds, he'll furnish the fertilizer and the chemicals, and may give him a little to live on, but he has to take that crop to him. And they are not going to get the best grades in that situation. So it's almost like sharecropping again. Because if the government, if some of them settled the debt early on, they can't get back in to borrow money. And most of them didn't get, even though they won their claim in the Pickford case, didn't get their debt written off. You know, or it's I really, in some cases, one of my former coworkers and I used to say, we think we'll lose more land than we would have lost prior to a lawsuit. But it's also encouraging to be able to connect with others, like we did back in the 90s to get Red Tomato, to get those markets with Stop and Shop and Whole Foods and all. We could not have gone into those places to get the market. And then when we shipped those melons into Boston, Red Tomato helped to get them distributed to the stores and all. So, you know, forming those kind of relationships has been really, really helpful. And then being a part of, we just had Farm Aid that celebrated 30 years. Early on, we used Farm Aid to get the message out about the problems black farmers were having at Farm Aid concerts, because then all of the media is there, and you could have we'd have our farmers there doing interviews and so forth. So, now what did I just say to you? I've said it's better, but it's not what it should be.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
So given the lows and the highs, can you say a little bit what this whole process has done to the people that have been involved in it? You know, what is it that they will not lose even when that next slump comes again?
Part of what's happened is that it's been so difficult to get our young people involved in agriculture. Now, some of them, they didn't pick cotton like I did, but they saw their fathers and grandfathers struggling so hard and working so hard and not making anything. So one of the problems we have is very few young African American males want to farm, even though they have the land. One of the things we've done is we've gotten women involved in growing food again. And we've formed associations and so forth. And it's been amazing to see them. It's been amazing to see them actually teach some of the younger women how to can, how to prepare stuff for the freezer, and to have them growing products and selling at farmers market. On the day we had that closing with the owners of the Winn-Dixie building, one of the female farmers came up and set up her table. She had beautiful turnips and collards and sweet potatoes and pecans, and I sold everything she had. You know, we've taught them to do that, take advantage of the situation, and and sell, grow and sell.
First of all, thank you so much for your encouraging words and everything that you shared with us. My grandmother grew up on a farm in Mississippi, and so I've heard those stories before. I wonder, how can we connect the problem that we have here in Buffalo concerning food deserts and the issues around food justice with the solution that may be present in your story that you just told us with the farmers. Is there any way that we could work together and provide markets, even if it wasn't in Buffalo, New York, but in other communities for these farmers, very similar to the story you told about Ben and Jerry's, or we don't have a big business like that, but what about the fact that we have all of these potential markets here in the Northeast? Is there any way that they could be connected?
You should see my master's thesis that I did back in 1989. It was the multi-purpose cooperative as a way to save black-owned land, and it specifically talked about connecting with black people, especially in some of the major cities in the country. Now, one of my former co-workers, Ben Burkett, with the Mississippi Association of Cooperatives, he's brought food into Chicago on a regular basis. You know, what I found is a lot of the black people in Chicago came from Mississippi. Right. You know? Yeah. So in fact, he's in Georgia now. He told me he would be there this morning to try to buy some pecans from us, because his cooperative also serve markets in New Orleans and other places. So it's possible, is what I'm saying to you. We have shipped long distances.
I hear proposals for shipping.
That's what I was going to say. If it's possible, and I think it is also, what would you think would be the first step if there was any kind of connection that would be formed between Western New York and what you're doing in terms of the market?
Yeah, it would call talk. We need to talk to each other to see what the barriers would be and see what we need to do to work them out. I can tell you now, with some of our farmers, there was a history, you know, we were so trusting back in the 60s. We'd connect with, I never forget, we shipped a tractor-trailer load of sweet potatoes. We didn't grade them. We took them to the white guy who owned the facility to do the grading and all. And they tried to say the potatoes were bad. We knew they were not. So we have to get beyond that so that we can work with each other. I'm saying that kind of thing because it happened many, many times where we were trusted and sent a product and never got a dime for it.
Following up from that, I know there's a lot of young people in the crowd, and as the moderator, I get to call you out. Do you have any questions, any burning questions? I see Sam in the back. Sam.
What you said about keeping up with what you want to do, I thought that was really inspirational. But in the beginning, when you guys first started, like, how did you deal with people who were negative towards your movement? Like, you're like your own peers. I know. Good question. I think when you start any movement, if you're anybody, it's really hard to get your own peers to agree with you. And then, if they didn't agree with you, did that really affect your morale?
You have to shake it off and let it go, because you can see something they can't see. Many of them will come along later when you've made it happen, but you have to be willing to take the blows and just keep working at it. And that's what we've done through the years, started with the civil rights movement and the beatings we endured and so forth, and on up to the work that we started doing with economic development, because we knew that was the way. And I should say to you, the Southwest Georgia Project, when my husband was one of the founding members of SNCC, and he came to Albany, and the work was known as the Southwest Georgia Project. When Stokely became the director of SNCC, he said all whites needed to go work in their own community. We didn't agree with that. So we separated from SNCC and incorporated the Southwest Georgia Project. See, we didn't stop. Albany is known, they say Albany was a failure, the movement failure. A lot of people won't come through there. We are the only movement work that started in 1961 and has not stopped. So when people tell me, they say the movement era, I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm still working in the civil rights movement.
For clarification, that's Albany, Georgia, not Albany.
Yes. I've had my luggage to go to Albany, New York a few times.
So the story is the work doesn't stop. And we have more times for questions if people have some other questions they want to ask. anyone. I said, okay, yes.
Check. No. Despite the fact that which you touch for,
Use it for the others who can't hear.
Say it loud like this. Okay, despite the fact that y'all struggled here and there and y'all were able to overcome those struggles, were there any parts during that process that I just said maybe that like I started to doubt yourself, saying that maybe it's just not time to do this or it's time to give up, or y'all always stay on that positive roll?
Wasn't all positive, I can tell you that. There was a point when, you know, as a woman working, and I worked in organizations that had black males as the leader all of these years up to now. That's a very, very difficult situation. And there were some things that happened with new communities that I didn't agree with. And, but the men were making the decisions. And I can tell you, I almost left my husband over it. But we worked it out. But there were many times when gosh, at one point they used the legal system to try to discredit my husband and another city commissioner in Albany. They indicted my husband for supposedly double billing the city for $90 on a trip he went to, and it went to trial. You know, can you believe it? And then when the DA got up there, he said, this man shouldn't be there. He didn't do anything. The mayor needed to be here because the city clerk told us what happened. The mayor, the DA, about 6 of them came together and cooked up the scheme. And you know, during the trial, it was proven that the city owed him money rather than vice versa. But it was all designed to destroy him. And that's when I said I would never do any work in Albany, Georgia. I didn't for many years. I concentrated all of my efforts out in the rural area and wouldn't do anything. Here I am now doing lots of work in the city of Albany.
So, taking that hold, we have time for just one more question. I see a hand.
I actually have more of a comment than a question. I just wanted to say that I'm sure over the years that your dad has been looking down on you and has realized that with a daughter like you, that he didn't necessarily need to listen. It's very uplifting, and I wish Lonnie success.
No one asked me about USDA, but when my father was having that house built, he was getting a loan from Farmers Home Administration, and he was told that a black man couldn't borrow the money to build a brick house. He wanted a brick house, but they wouldn't let him borrow the money for that. And in later years, when I became the state director of rural development in Georgia, the housing program was one of the things I administered that was part of my duty. So I just wish I could tell my father, hey, you know, now your daughter is running the program.
Thank you very much. We promised that we would save some time for one-on-one conversations with people that you would like to speak with, and we'll try to do that. I do want to thank you, Shirley, for speaking with us, for inspiring us, and for the wisdom. Before you get off the stage, though, please stay there for a minute. What she didn't share is her incredible grace, which I think is also a lesson for us. When I interviewed her, it was March 25th, coincidentally. I don't know if I shared this. I had the good fortune of interviewing Shirley for a research project that UB is leading along with Julia Friedgood from American Farmland Trust, who's here. And during the interview, she's calmly answering all these research questions. And then in the middle of the interview, she tells me that today is the day that my dad was murdered, and described the whole experience for me. And then it occurred to me that despite her challenges, that she has continued to work with people who are different than her, with organizations that have thwarted her, and with agencies, including public agencies, that have been incredibly hindering in her work. Would you agree that they were hindering? So I am grateful for the questions that the younger audience asked about how did she keep on going. I think that is an incredible lesson for Buffalo, because we know that we have lots of challenges. We're not Seattle, we're not Portland, we don't have a lot of money, but we've got a lot of heart, and we've got lots of good organizations, and we've got a tendency to just stick with it. And I could not be more grateful for that message of sticking with it for the sake of justice. So thank you very much. Formally, but stick around and get to know people that you don't know. And I think I have a couple more thank yous that I'm being reminded to give, one of which is the Buffalo Public School District, again for food, but also one person who is hiding. If I could just ask Laura Mangan to stand up. I never remember the official title of her office at UB, but she is the person who tries to get UB to work with community partnerships. And thank you, Laura, for organizing and helping us pull this together. And I want to put in a plug for a second community event that is happening tonight that is being held at the Birchfield Penny. Who is organizing it? I was asked to share this information, that if people are interested, Melissa Fratello, would you mind sharing information about the event?
Certainly. It's Robin Kimmerer, who is the author of a book called Braiding Sweetgrass, and it's about blending indigenous cultures with scientific knowledge around plants. So it's at the Birchfield Penny. It starts at 7 p.m. And it's free, and it's hosted by the Western New York Land Conservancy.
So if anybody is interested in that, you're welcome to go there. But thank you again for being here, and I hope you get a chance to talk to each other. Thank you.